Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So as you guys can see from the title of today's video, I kind of wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about my channel Redirect. It's definitely going to be much of the same content, but obviously with this new change in my life, I'm not going to be able to generate as much content solely concerning God in the way that I want to. I kind of want to tell you guys a little bit about the testimony of grace, how good God has been in my life, how I got into medical school, and then also let you guys know that this channel is going to feature more of my life as a lifestyle blogger, in the sense that now I'm walking in purpose. And so as a medical student, what that looks like, pursuing purpose, how I'm asking God day in and day out what He wants me to do, what's my next step, how do I go on with my day-to-day, my year-to-year as a medical student, as someone who's walking in purpose. Guys, this is really exciting. For me, I was accepted into medical school over a month ago. I got my first acceptance over a month ago, and I actually decided to reject the rest of my, I didn't decide to, I was forced to, but reject the rest of my interview invites because I was going to be going to medical school in the state of Texas, since that's where I'm from, cheapest, all the benefits to staying in state. But let me just start a little bit with my pre-med journey. I've known since, at least let's just say 8th grade, definitively, I knew I was going to be pre-med. And I used to tell people were like, okay, when you get to college, what do you want to major in? And I was like, pre-med. And I remember people saying pre-med's not a major, it's a track. And I was like, okay. And so that was something that was really confusing for me. But I knew, and I've known for the longest time, that I wanted to be pre-med. And part of me knowing that was when I was in 7th grade, my youth pastor at the time encouraged us all to pray about our purpose, asking God what it is that we felt our purpose was. And in that moment, my purpose was revealed to me. And to this day, I feel like my purpose has only become more clear in understanding how God wants to use me in the long run. I knew that I wanted to be pre-med, and so I went through high school. I actually hated science prior to high school, and so when I got to high school, I took my first biology class, my first chemistry class, fell in love with both of the subjects, and I was like, okay, you know what, I'm going to major in biochemistry when I get to college. I, was asking God, Father, position me in the places that you want me to be so that I can walk according to your will, walk according to your purpose. That was my prayer before entering college, and so I ended up going to Georgetown. I don't know if that's a surprise to people, I never said that on my channel. I ended up going to Georgetown for undergrad. There I studied biochemistry with a minor in justice and peace studies, because again, I feel like all of this is, all of this knowledge and information that I was accumulating was just leading into how I was able to walk in purpose, or how I would be able to walk in purpose, and how I'm going to continue doing so. At Georgetown, I was taking my pre-med courses, which obviously aligned with my major since I was a biochemistry major. The phone ringing, the pre-med courses were obviously aligned with that, and my first year I was doing pretty well in my pre-med courses. I did end up failing most of my finals freshman fall, and so that dropped all of my grades. It didn't drop them terribly, but it didn't make them better, and so I didn't end up with all A's the way that I was supposed to. And then sophomore year, everyone knows that's when you take organic chemistry, and the way my major was aligned was that I would take organic chemistry along with physics, because both of those courses were prerequisites for courses that my major required in the junior year. I took orgo and physics at the same time. That was the biggest challenge I've ever faced. I hate physics. I've never liked physics in my whole life. I took physics. It was the same thing as high school, so fortunately it wasn't the toughest, but I still didn't do that well. I didn't get a C or anything, but I didn't get I didn't get an A. I never had an A. I didn't get an A on a single test, so. And orgo, I fought nail and tooth in that class. I ended up getting a grade that I was really proud of. I didn't get an A or anything, but I was really close to getting an A, and so I was really proud of myself and the score I got in that class. And I know that it was only God who brought me to that point, because I was at a very low point sophomore fall at some point in the semester. But God, that's when I developed testing anxiety, and I realized that when I walk into, I could prepare for a test for a month, be super prepared, know everything, and then when I get into the testing room, it all escapes me, and my testing anxiety was negatively impacting my results. I had to pray and overcome that, and one thing that helped me a lot in college was going to worship concerts. I don't know why, but worship always transformed me. Like, I never came back the same, and I was always able to do much more than I could have possibly imagined before and after a worship concert. And so worship transformed me, transformed my mind, helped me to realize these things. And every time I dug deeper into the Word of God and understanding who He is and where He's taking me, those are the times that I was able to do better and to overcome. That was really important for me. So in my sophomore year, I took Orgo and Physics 1 in the fall. So in the spring semester of my sophomore year, I took Orgo and Physics 2, and spring semester was much worse than fall semester. I struggled so much more. Like, I think that's when I got the lowest grade I've ever gotten on a test before. And like with my major, the courses were obviously more difficult, and I wasn't just taking organic chemistry or any of my chemistry courses with like all the other pre-med students. Because my major fell under the chemistry department, I had courses that were specifically designed for chemistry students. And so I was in organic chemistry for chemistry majors. I wasn't just in like the pre-med courses. And so I was obviously used to like my teachers curving exams, whatever, but I still got grades that I had never seen before. So in organic chemistry 2, I'm pretty sure I got like I don't know, it might have been like a 30, 40 on a test. Like on an exam. It was the first exam, and honestly failing the first exam has never like psyched me out or made me feel bad, because I always knew that that's something I could get over. But later on in college, I actually learned that that was a bad habit. I just remember going into like a place where I just like shut down, and I was like, I can no longer allow school to affect how I feel about myself, to affect my mood. And normally that's a very good thing, obviously, but for me in that moment, that just made me shut down, and I did not care about the grades I got in that class for like the rest of the semester. I was fighting to do better because I could not fail the class. Like, that would have obviously been a really bad thing, but I wasn't doing all that great. And so that was actually the first time I got a B-. And obviously I knew that a B- wasn't going to be the end of the world, but in my school, a B- counts as a 2.67 in your cumulative GPA. And so that definitely dropped my semester GPA and made me get grades that overall GPA that I just never expected for myself. That was not fun. And I forgot to mention summers, but I'll just briefly say every summer I did do some thing to enrich my application. So my first summer, I participated in the Atlantis Fellowship, which doesn't pay you, you pay them. It's kind of a scam, I guess. I shadowed doctors abroad in Pontevedra, Spain. My second summer, I decided to stay in DC and continue doing my wet lab research under my principal investigator. And then my third summer, I did public health research at WashU, and I went to Uganda to do that. So anyways, going into junior year, so thank God, I personally believe that I need a long break to recover from the damage that is school in order to perform well. So I found that my trend in grades was that I always had my highest grades in the fall, and it would tank in the spring, because at my school, our winter break was only 20 days. So it was never longer than that. We never had one that was long. And so that wasn't personally enough time for me to recover from the damage of the semester. Junior fall, just like every other fall, I came to school determined to do better. Like, I needed to see the best work I ever done and all of that. So junior fall, I was taking biochemistry 1, analytical chemistry 1, physical chemistry 1, and then courses for my minor. And again, my sophomore year, I was also a Spanish minor, so I had 2 minors for the first 2 years of college, but I ended up dropping my Spanish minor because it was too expensive to study abroad, and I could only study abroad during the summer. So that was my course load for the junior semester, and also wanted to add that I never took less than 18 credits until my senior fall, until my junior spring. I never took less than 18 credits, so I was always taking 18 credits. And so that was my course load, and to the glory of God, I ended up doing amazing in all those classes. Like, I got almost all A's in all of my courses, and so that was motivation enough for me to feel confident in my ability. But junior year was also the year that I decided to take my MCAT, and I knew that I've never been good at taking standardized tests, so I set aside the entirety of my junior year to study for the MCAT and take it at the end. So I scheduled my exam for May 23rd, and I knew that that was the day I was going to take the exam. I was taking a test prep course. I was doing LTS test prep, which I would not recommend to anyone because the way that they advertise themselves is very false. I do highly recommend their study materials, but I think that you're better off studying by yourself than you are signing up for a course that doesn't meet as a course, and it's still like it's all work that you would do yourself. So paying $3,000 versus paying $100 for their study materials and doing the same thing doesn't add up. Anyways, don't mean to bash them, but I'm just saying. So anyways, junior year, while I was taking these courses, I was also studying for my MCAT. And so junior spring came along and I was still taking biochemistry 2, I took physical chemistry 2, and then I was taking a biochemistry lab course that was also considered a course. So it wasn't just a lab, it was a course. Oh, in the fall I was also taking analytical lab. So anyways, 4 science classes both semesters is basically the point. In my spring semester, I had pretty much the same trend in grades throughout the semester. Ended up not doing so well. Oh, physical chemistry 2 was really difficult for me, and I ended up not doing well in that class. But for the most part, my grades are pretty much the same, and I ended up doing pretty much the same as last semester, but physical chemistry 2 significantly dropped my GPA. I didn't get a C or anything, but I just did not do well in that course compared to how I had done in the fall. And so by the time the semester was ending, I had realized that, you know, my MCAT is a month away, and I'm still scoring in the 400s. And for those, well, I'm assuming everyone who's watching this video will know how the MCAT is ranked. But the lowest score you can get, I believe, is a 480, and the highest score you can get is 528. And I was still scoring in the 400s, and my exam was about a month away. Again, I am assuming most of you guys know this, but you cannot get into medical school, an MD school, an allopathic medical school in the United States with a score in the 400s. Like, every other aspect of your application has to be perfect for you to get into medical school with that score. And I knew that at the time my science GPA was about a 3.5, 3.4, honestly. It was a 3.5, whatever. It was a 3.5, between a 3.5 and 3.6 before physical chemistry came in the picture. And so I knew that I was a very average applicant. Like, my overall GPA was around, it was close to a 3.6, it wasn't quite a 3.6, and my science GPA was between a 3.5, 3.6 before physical chemistry, in which case I think it became a 3.4, I think. 3.4, maybe a little less than that. And so I needed to do well in my MCAT. My goal for my MCAT was a 518, but considering the fact that I was at a 490 something a month before my exam, I knew that 518 was no longer attainable. And so that's when I had to go to God, and I was like, Father, I can't. Like, I need to apply to medical school now because I already have my summer internship lined up. And I cannot take my MCAT again at the end of the summer because at that point it would have been too late. Because, again, for those of you that know, the medical school application process is a whole year long, and you need to apply early to get in. And so you need to apply early if you're an average student, basically. I mean, everyone should apply early, but if you know that you're gonna need as many chances as you can get, the earlier you apply, the better your chances are. Anyways, I ended up taking my MCAT, and I feel like I truly only studied for it seriously for 2 weeks. And I spent those 2 weeks reviewing content, reviewing questions, which is the key to success. Reviewing questions, reviewing your exams thoroughly for hours. Like, it might take you 7 hours to take the exam, but it should take you double that time to review the exam, understanding why you got questions wrong, why there are certain things that you weren't sure about, and even the questions that you got right. Content review is the single most important thing you could do with medical exams. I heard the same about step 1, step 2, and so that's just the advice that I'm going to give to people generally. So that's what I spent the last 2 weeks doing, and I ended up, to the glory of God, I only got this score like 3 days before I was taking the MCAT, so I only got it once or twice. And to the glory of God, I got a 503. So for most of y'all that know, that's only a little bit higher than the 50th percentile. Maybe it's almost 60, maybe it's not quite 60. So it's a fairly not that great of a score. But I had to give God the glory and give him the praise because I told him, Lord, I'm not taking this exam again after I saw my score. I mean, before I saw my score, I knew that I didn't want to take it again, but after I saw my score, I said, God, I'm still not taking it again. I knew that I just truly needed to surrender in this process in order to see where God was taking me, because not only had I not been sure if I was going to be able to get into medical school, but I used this process as a time to understand that this is really where God wanted me to go. Because there are so many times throughout my undergrad career that I really questioned whether medicine was for me, because I felt like if it's for me, I shouldn't have to struggle this much, which is a lie of the enemy. If it's for me, then everything will just fall into place, which is another lie of the enemy, because the way that you work towards your goals is very important. And so actively pursuing these things was a big part of actually achieving and getting to where God wanted me to be. Time to talk about the application process. So I had to write a personal statement and submit it to my university as part of the committee letter process, whatever. And so I had just written one really quickly because I didn't have one prepared already. Written one really quickly just to submit my application to the committee. But that was a personal statement that I had to workshop for months. So the committee application was due in February, I believe. The semester was so busy that I actually didn't get a chance to start workshopping it until after I took my MCAT, so end of May, early June. Mind you, the Texas application process opens May 1st, the rest of the United States application process opens June 1st. And my application was not ready because my personal statement was not done at all. I just started workshopping it end of May, early June. And so you can see that significantly put me behind on where I was meant to be in my application process. I thankfully know a lot of people who are in med school, and actually they all happen to be students of color, and so shout out to all of my lovely mentors for helping me workshop my application. But I workshopped my personal statement until the end of August. And at the end of August, I was still getting feedback from people where they were telling me, Toby, I cannot allow you to apply to medical school with this personal statement. It's just not going to work. But at that point, I knew that if I wanted to get into med school, I really needed to let go and let God. So I had to fully, again, surrender my application to God and said, God, you know my heart, you know my desire, like this is my reality, this is the best way that I can summarize my desire to enter medicine in this time, so Lord, have your way with it. And so I decided to submit all of my applications. I submitted my Texas application first. I think I submitted it at the end of August, and then I took 2 more weeks to workshop my MCAT application, not just the personal statement. Well, I fixed the personal statement a little bit more over those 2 weeks, and then working on the actual application. Honestly, your application isn't considered complete until your letters of recommendation, all of that is submitted. So my committee, I was thankfully highly recommended by my committee, so that's just another bonus on my application. But my committee didn't submit my letters, my packet, until August 30th. Regardless of whether I had submitted my application earlier or not, my application would not have been considered complete to the schools until they had received those letters. After submitting my applications, I started to get all my secondaries. Secondaries honestly are almost automatic. I tried my best to apply to schools that had some sorting system so that I wouldn't just automatically receive secondaries if I wasn't qualified, like if I was an applicant that they would never consider. So I tried to filter my schools in that way. After I got secondaries, honestly, I was very tired. I had spent the entire summer workshopping my personal statement. Mind you, I was also doing an internship where I went abroad for a month, and then I had a final presentation to do for the internship, and there was a lot of other work that was required for the internship. And then I was getting back into the swing of school. The semester had just started. It was my final semester of college. I actually graduated a semester early. You know, I was really stressed, and I was like, I can't deal with this now. And what they say for secondaries is that you should take 1 to 2 weeks maximum to submit them. And I did not start my secondaries until October. I let so many of the deadlines pass. Like, some of them had October 15th deadlines, and honestly, there were some schools that I knew that I didn't necessarily want to go to, even though I had a good shot of getting in, just according to their statistics. And I let the deadline pass because I did not want to work on my secondaries. And so I didn't start working on secondaries until around October 15th-ish, which is when a lot of them are due, which is bad. Submitting secondaries when they're due is bad. It is bad, point blank, period. You should not do that. You have higher chances. And I'm not saying statistics are everything, but I'm just saying giving yourself more opportunity is important. So you have higher chances of being admitted the earlier you do things. And so I started doing that. A lot of my secondaries were also due November 1st, so gradually I started doing them. I did them in order of how much I wanted to go to that school. So I did Howard first, actually. Not that I wanted to go to Howard that bad, but I just knew that Howard's system is a little bit wonky. Like, they might receive your application in July and not invite you for an interview until March. And that's not necessarily normal for a lot of schools. I found that schools will invite you for an interview about a month after you submitted your secondary. I'm not saying that's custom, because it could definitely take way longer than that. Like, I had a school, I think the second or third school I submitted a secondary to, which was in October, didn't send me an interview invitation until February. Schools are different, but I'm just saying. So anyways, I ended up only completing 9 secondaries. And I forgot to say, I applied to all the schools in Texas, so that's 9. I did not apply to the DO school, so I didn't apply to any DO schools. I applied to one school abroad, which was Ross University in the Caribbean, and I only did that. I wanted to, but my father was not supporting it. He said, you are not going to medical school outside of the United States. But I only did it because there was a fee waiver. So I applied to that school for free. I actually interviewed there, and I also got in. And it was the first school I got into actually on October 15th. I only submitted, so I applied to, 9 schools in Texas, and then 14 schools on MCAT. So that's a total of 23 schools that I sent my primary application to, and I ended up sending secondaries to only 9 schools. So you can see how that's bad. But it is important, like, I think sending secondaries to 9 schools was good in the sense that we saved a lot of money, because secondaries, the cheapest secondary I had was $60, the most expensive was $120. And so, but most of them were 70, 75-ish. So that's how much most of the secondaries cost. And to submit my applications alone, Texas allows you to apply to all the schools for $185, and then AMCAS is like, I don't remember the exact breakdown, but I spent $800 to apply to schools at AMCAS. So it was already $1,000 to submit about $1,000 to submit my primaries. So doing secondaries, I was very conscious of that, even though my parents, thank God for providing for my family, even though my parents were fully supportive of me to applying to as many schools as I wanted to, I was still very conscious of it. But also the fact that I only applied to 9 schools was just the fact that I was being lazy, which is also really bad. I had finished submitting secondaries, and November rolls around and I still hadn't been invited for any interviews. And mind you, Texas schools, the interview season ends in December, latest second week of January, because Texas has a match day that happens in the first week of February every year. So the interview season ends at that point. And I think half of the schools I had submitted secondaries to were in Texas, and I still hadn't gotten any interviews. And so I was starting to get really nervous, like, okay, this might be a failed application season. But I had a lot of faith. I knew after a certain point that this was for me and that there was going to be nothing that would stand against me. And so I knew that I was going to medical school. I didn't know when I was going to medical school, but I knew that I was going to medical school. And I had enough faith in this application process to trust that God was going to take me to medical school. So by the grace of God, I think November 7th or something, early in November, I got my first interview invitation. I was at work, and I remember checking my email, and I just started crying. I started crying, and I automatically forwarded the emails to my parents. And it was actually a medical school that did not require secondary, so in total, schools that considered my application complete were 11 schools. So it was a school in Texas that did not require secondary, so I just knew that was the grace of God. I just knew, like, at that point, like, it was God. And so that interview was scheduled for the first week of December, so I went on that interview. It was an excellent interview. The people who interviewed me told me that they would love to see me as part of their program. They wished me the best of luck, and they said that, like, I would be an excellent addition to the program. So from there, I prayed before my interview that God give me favor. I was definitely favored at that school. And then my second interview invitation came, I don't remember, maybe a week before that interview or the week after that interview, and it was scheduled for the first week of January. And so I went and interviewed at that school, which is the school I'm going to. Sorry, I didn't remember this part. Anyways, I'm taking a long time. Which is the school that I'm going to. I interviewed at that school, and I had similar feedback, but in that school, I had 2 interviews just like the first school, but both of my interviewers told me that I would be a great addition to the program. So I knew that I was definitely favored at that school as well. At that point, I had only received 2 interviews, and both of them were in Texas, to the glory of God. So it came time for me to rank the schools. I ranked them, however. A lot of prayer went into ranking them, but I was heavily instructed to rank the school that I really wanted to go to first. That was just the point. And so a lot of prayer went into it, but I needed to rank the school that I really wanted to go to first, and then all the others after. And so I knew that however it happened, that the school that God wanted me to go to is the school that I would have been matched to, regardless of what was first, second, third, fourth, fifth. Well, obviously there were only 2 choices, and so I just left it into God's hands like that. Then on February 3rd, I found out I was accepted to medical school, and I will be going to Paul L. Foster Medical School, School of Medicine in El Paso, Texas. Guns up. It is a Texas Tech University Health Science Center school, and so I'm really excited for that. But that's basically how I got into medical school. I forgot to mention that I was a very active student in undergrad. I was president of, over the course of my undergrad career, I was an active member in 3 clubs. I was president of 1 club, which was our MAPS chapter, and then I was vice president of another organization, which was our ASA, our African Society, at Georgetown. And then I was another member of 2 different Bible studies at my school, and I was active in all of those organizations. And then I also participated in undergraduate research throughout my undergraduate experience. So I started looking for a PI my freshman year, started my research my sophomore year, and continued until I graduated. That's another thing that I did. And then I was also a tutor on campus, and so I was known for those things. And yeah, I had a pretty good group of friends. My friends were all leaders as well, and so I think that I was a very well-rounded student. I worked 3 jobs my last semester, but most of the time I worked 2 jobs. I worked at our writing center, and so again, I was a very active student on campus. I also did community service over the summers, and you know, I think that I was a good applicant in spite of my GPA and in spite of my exam score. And so I just want to give glory to God for getting me to this place. I'm really excited to embark on this journey. I know that I'm going to be walking in purpose, and so I wanted to share with you guys, especially those aspiring pre-meds who I do have subscribed to my channel, and I wanted to share with you guys this journey, and then also take you guys along it, and hopefully invite new subscribers, but also let you guys know what it looks like to be pursuing purpose in this way, and how I'm going to maintain my life of faith and even grow deeper as I move across the state, very far away, 10-hour drive from home. So move across the state and start my life as an adult. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share if you found this video helpful, or if you enjoyed it. I will see you guys next time.